Well, so I've just finished watching The Last of Us episode 3. And what did I think of it? It was very different from the first two episodes, and a lot of people are going to have issues with this episode. Not just because it strays from the sort of story in the game, because we don't see any of this in the game, but because people have these issues with things that are presented in this. I myself don't have issues with that, but but it is what it is. So let's talk about Last of Us episode 3. So we start off with Ellie and Joel. We see Joel sort of washing himself sort of in the stream and that, just sort of playing around with rocks really. And he's obviously, you can see he's obviously thinking over what happened in the previous episode with Tess dying, which like would have rocked his world because they've been together for, as we find this one, for a very long time. So we sort of get that, and there's sort of a tension between Ellie and Joel. So when Joel goes back to Ellie, he's sort of very quiet. He's not really answering any of her questions. He's sort of staying quiet. Then Ellie sort of like goes to almost apologize. Like you think she's going to apologise for what happened with Tess, but she kind of turns on his head and says, "Well, I didn't ask you guys to come do this. You wanted this because you needed a battery for this car, this van thing. This isn't on me. Like, don't blame me." And Joel kind of acknowledges that. He's like, "Fair dues." And then they go off looking for some supplies that Joel had left in this like shop, old little convenience store. So as he's trying to hunt for the supplies, so he can't actually remember where he's left them, Ellie sort of goes off on her own, and she finds a one of the infected sort of like pinned in a wall. It's kind of weird how he's pinned into this wall because it looks like something's collapsed on top of him. But surely if it's the foundations of the building would have come down. But anyway, so she's trapped. So this infected's trapped. And this is where we first see Ellie kill something because she kills the infected, but before she does, she sort of cuts it, and you can see sort of like underneath the sort of like furry sort of like stuff that fungus has, because fungus grows underground. It's bigger than you think it is. It actually grows underground. It's all like furry sort of tentacle things underground, and you sort of see those inside the head of the infected. So we've got like Ellie's first kill because she just kills this thing, and it's kind of like an aggressive kill. Um, a friend of mine's got this theory that Ellie's going to turn out to be the bad, but and he's played the games, but he thinks they're going to twist it, but I don't know. I still think they're going to stick with the story of the game because that's the important story, is the sort of like relationship between those two. But that's what a friend of mine said anyway. But yeah, you sort of see this nasty way she sort of stabs the thing. It's sort of like in aggression, and then she comes back up, and Joel's found what he's looking for, and they sort of go off again. And one thing I did notice when this episode started, there was no flashback to sort of like the infection sort of thing. So I thought that was going to be a recurring theme. Every episode, at the very beginning, you'd get a flashback. However, this one kind of is a complete flashback later on. That is one thing I missed. I forgot to mention at the start of this chat. So we've got Ellie and Joel walking on. They do start to talk about the infection because Ellie sort of asks questions, sort of like, how did it happen? Because she heard it was monkeys. He then says basically they found that it was in food, and people sort of like the food was shipped out. Everyone started eating the food on the Thursday, Friday. By the Monday, the world was gone. That's how quick it was, and that's why no one could prepare for it. It just sort of like wiped everyone out. And it was interesting to hear that that's the sort of way it happened. It happened literally over a whole weekend, which kind of devastated a lot of people. And then Joel's like, right, we're going to go this way or this way, but we won't go that way because there's something that you shouldn't see. So Ellie's instantly, because being the type of person Ellie is, she's just like, no, I'm going that way because I want to see what is I'm not supposed to see. And it turns out it's like a mass, I suppose it's like a mass grave, but it's not really a grave. Basically, what they were doing is when they'd evacuate people from small towns, if the place they were trying to send them to was full up, they'd just execute the people. And the philosophy is sort of like, well, if they're dead, they can't become infected and bite more people. And they do a really cool, the only thing, I suppose, Schindler's List sort of moment. Because in the movie Schindler's List, you keep seeing the girl in the red coat. Or is it red dress? She's wearing red. And you keep seeing this girl in this red, I say coat, in this red coat. Just randomly you sort of see a sort of spot hanging around. And then later on in the film, after they've killed a load of people in the gas chambers, you see a pile of bodies and you can see the red coat in the pile. They kind of do a very similar thing to that here, because you see some cloth, some like distinctive fabric, like two in this like pit of like skeletons and clothes, and then they sort of do a flashback to when the outbreak happened, and you see a mum and a baby, and I was like, oh no, I do not want to see a baby get like executed. I really don't. I kind of, in my head, I kind of imagined it like that scene, The Great Escape, at the end of The Great Escape, where they sort of gun down a lot of the escapee, the prisoners, kind of remind me of that, and I thought, I don't want to see that, and luckily we don't see that. However, what we see is everyone being evacuated from that town, and then we have a flashback for pretty much the entire episode now. So we get to meet Bill, and Bill, if you've played the game, it is kind of angry, crazy guy that just has his own town, and he's sort of like a bit of a sort of a survivalist sort of expert guy, and he's got his own town, all sells traps and that, and him and Joel have had dealings in the past. There's kind of a tension now. They did a very different thing in this version of Bill. I kind of like this version. I like the story they build, and I like kind of where it goes, but we'll get more into that in a minute. So we see Bill, he's living in his little bunker. He waits till everyone buggers off and leaves the town. He's sort of the last one left. And then he has a kind of a good time. He's kind of one of these guys. He's obviously a recluse type guy, lives on his own, and he's finally just on his own completely. So he just, as a great time, he just goes around the town, sets everything up. So he sets his little booby traps up. He cages himself into this town, and he just goes shopping to the Home Depot and sort of takes everything that he needs from there. He manages to get the gas working in the gas thing and gets that going, so he's going to have sort of his own gas supply. And he's kind of living quite a nice little life there, while the rest of the world's going to hell. So, fast forward a little bit, we basically see one of Bill's traps goes off. He goes to investigate, and a guy has fallen down into the traps, like one of those little pit traps. So he's fallen down into there, and he manages to convince Bill to sort of like let him out and stuff. And Bill says like, "Go on, see you later then." But the bloke's like, "Well, can I stand some food?" So goes. So Bill like reluctantly agrees to let him have some food, and we find this guy's name's Frank. And again, the game is very different what happens with Frank. But yeah, so then we get basically what is essentially a love story within this apocalyptic world, and it's kind of like the nicer side. And this show's doing a very good thing, which I kind of knew it would be an emotional show in some ways, but they're really pushing the emotion and the sort of the connection with people in this like apocalyptic world. And a lot of people are liking this to The Walking Dead. There are a lot of similarities, and the thing with The Walking Dead was, to me, was the evolution of people in this world, where this is showing more of the connection with people in this world, and I do like that. So we basically get this romance, because obviously they obviously have an attraction to each other, and then next thing we know, we've got sort of like romance going on, and these two men sort of fall in love, and what's supposed to be staying for one night ends up staying for a week, and then it's years. They spend the best part of almost 2 decades together, and sort of in that time you sort of get like the funny sort of moments where Bill obviously wants to keep the town just them two, but Frank wants to sort of, as he puts it, make friends. He wants to sort of expand the world, enjoy his life. And he does that, and with that, he's been speaking to people on radio. It happens to be Ellie and Joel, and that's where the connection with these people come in. And I like this scene because they're sort of like, with Bill and Joel are sort of very similar in character. Where they're sitting at the table, sort of like looking at each other, almost like glaring at each other, like not trusting each other. And Bill's got a gun just like pointed towards Joel and Tess, and it's just such a funny sort of scene. And you've got like Frank who's trying to be all neighbourly and like as if nothing weird has happened in the world, and like Bill's still sitting with that gun just pointed like that towards Joel. And when Tess and Frank go off to have a look around the house, there's sort of a moment between of like, I suppose like a mutual respect moment where Joel's like, "Look, I'll be the same as you, but get a gun at my face now. We're just to like do what we're supposed to do, and we can barter, we can make a sort of arrangement." And they have that sort of mutual respect sort of like with each other. And as they're sort of, Joel and Tess are leaving, Joel says to Bill like, "These gates are good and that, but like people are going to come, raiders are going to come." And then we sort of flash forward a little bit more, and one night Raiders attack. And Bill is one of the toughest people in the world, because like Frank's in bed and Bill's basically just gone out by himself with a gun, and he's taking down these raiders with his booby traps he's got around the place and that. But he gets shot, and Frank brings him in, and then you can see where the respect, but and the it's not really it's like a friendship, but not a friendship with Joel and Bill, because like Bill is saying, get Joel. Joel's the one that's got to help you. Something happens to me, you need to see him. He'll sort you out. He'll protect you. Because it's kind of that sort of like, they've kind of had a connection, Bill and Joel, where it's sort of like, I know I can trust you. You're not my best friend. You're not my like thing, but I can trust the type of person you are. And there's that weird connection, and I really like that. So then we sort of fast forward it more. He doesn't die from the gunshot. But we fast forward quite a lot, and it's Bill and Frank old. They're obviously old, and Frank's ill. Now we don't actually know what he's ill from, because obviously they haven't got doctors to find out. But he's very ill. He's getting sick and he's dying, and he decides like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life being ill and suffering. I just would rather die now, and it's done. And there's a moment of sort of the sort of, and it's one of these heartbreaking things, because you've got Bill, who knows that it's kind of what Frank wants, and it would be better for Frank, but he doesn't want to leave him, doesn't want to lose him. So there's kind of tension there at first, but then it's like Bill does it. He says, if that's what you want, we're going to do it. So he takes them out. They have this fantastic day together. They actually like have a sort of wedding ceremony almost to each other, and it's such a lovely, warm moment. And this is what this show is doing so well, which you don't really expect from an apocalypse zombie horror show, but they're really pushing emotion and togetherness, and you get these real sweet moments. So then they get the sort of the dinner table scene where Bill's gone off and he's got his 2 glasses of wine, and he pours the crushed up tablets that are going to kill Frank and like let him die in his sleep, so after he drinks this stuff, or pass out and die. And he puts in there, and Frank takes it, and Bill takes a drink, and then Frank's like clocked already. He's like, you put more of that stuff in the bottle, didn't you? And Bill just goes, yeah, enough to kill a horse. So it's like, and Bill's drunk the wine too, so they're both going to die. And you get that kind of like, as soon as I knew it was going to happen, they said, let's just go to bed. And I had not a flashback, but sort of a remember of Titanic, that scene in Titanic where the boat's going down, it's obvious it's sinking, and you see that old couple just cuddling each other in the bed as the water's coming in. And it kind of, that's how I saw those two, this old couple just holding each other as they both passed away. So, phenomenal way to end sort of their story. So then we go to Ellie and Joel turning up at the town. And this must be a month or so after they've died. And you get Joel go in, he's looking around the house, he's about to open the bedroom door, and Ellie calls him, says she's found this letter. So he goes back down, and Ellie starts reading the letter. And it's quite a funny little letter, because it's sort of like Bill knowing it's going to be Joel that turns up. It could be anyone, but he kind of has this fear it's going to be Joel that will be there first, because Joel obviously knows all the codes to the gates. He can come in and out. So it shows you how much, in a way, Bill trusted Joel to give him that code to the gate. So anyway, they have this letter thing, and there's a bit of a joke in there, sort of about, like, I don't like you, but if like you've read this, or if you know I'm dead, don't go in the bedroom. I've opened the window to stop it from smelling in here, but like, go into here's the code for sort of the basement or with the bunker. Take as many guns as you want, take whatever you can carry, and use it to protect. And then Ellie starts, she's reading the letter, like Ellie's reading the letter, and as she gets this bit, she's like, and use them to protect, and then she just goes quiet, and Joel's like, give me the letter, and you sort of don't see the rest of the letter really, but you just see that phrase sort of between Joel's fingers as use it to protect Tess, and it's just like, oh, and Joel instantly goes quiet and recedes in again. And then him and Ellie are sort of like, they go to get the car and all that, because Bill had left the keys with the thing for the car. So they start stocking up and everything. They have a shower. They get dressed in the sort of like gear that they wear most in the game, which is kind of this sort of thing. Joel's wearing that. And they're sort of like having a bit of thing. And then Joel says like, look, I don't want to talk about Tess anymore. I don't want to talk about our pasts. We're just going to get this done and that's it. I'm going to take it, see my brother Tommy. He used to be a Firefly. He'll know where this scientist lab is, and that's it. We're just going to take you. And it's like Joel trying not to be close to her. It's obviously he's been hurt by Tess dying, and now he's had Bill die on him. So it's like I don't want to get close to anyone. He kind of pushing her away a little bit. At the same time, we know that they're getting closer, and she's like, "Yep, yeah, okay, whatever." And then they go to drive away. And this is the funniest thing because obviously he's just said all that, and then they start having like a funny joke in the car about like the drive, like about the song that's playing and stuff. And it's quite a nice moment. And then you sort of pan back to the window that had been left open. And I swear we were going to see Bill that he hadn't actually killed himself. He's going to be watching him out the window, but you don't see that. But that's I kind of thought maybe we're getting like a point of view shot of Bill looking out the window, but we don't see it. We see they play the music that was earlier on in the show when Bill was playing piano with Frank, and it sort of episode ends, and the kind of obviously if you've played the game, that plays out very differently in the game. In the game, you get to that area, and it's basically Joe and E trying to find their way to get to Bill to talk to him and try and get a car battery. Get a car, and then you have to you find the car. Then you have to go to the school, try and find a battery, and it's during that you meet one of the like monster clickers. So none of that's happened in this. I don't know because I've seen them in the trailer. The monster clickers, they're called bloaters, and they're just like big giant clickers, and they spit like spores at you in the thing. But I don't know what they're going to do in this one. And I was shocked that they didn't have any of the school scene or anything like that because that was a real important part of the game. So I don't know if they're going to move that where that happens to later. I'm not sure. But yeah, so we meet Bill, and Bill's, as I said, Bill's just in the game version, Bill's just a miserable git who's very angry, very slightly mental, and him and Joel have a very sort of like don't like each other attitude. They really don't like each other. There's not really respect there. It's more of a mutual sort of dislike of each other. And the thing that sort of like shocks me the most is how different the characters were from what you see Bill in this show to Bill in that show. I'm not sure which one I like the most. Both versions of that character are good. This one's more heart. This is all about playing on the heartstrings, and I can imagine people tearing up at this story, especially with the sort of Frank and things. Sorry, but Frank is actually in the game as well, but you see him not for very long, and it's not very loving at all. Basically, you find the body of Frank who's hung himself, and what's his name? Bill says, "Oh, that was my that was a partner of mine." Doesn't mention romantically at all in any way. It's not mentioned as a partner, as in romantic. You assume it's like an associate sort of partner when you're playing the game. But obviously, this shows a whole different side to that story. And Frank has killed himself, and it's very very different. But yeah, the way I feel like we've missed the whole what would have been a great scene with the whole school part, because I remember the school part me really been into that while playing the game, but that's gone. So I'm hoping they put that later on, maybe in like sort of change the chronological order of where that happens. So we actually see the bloater come out. That's going to be a seriously insane episode. So obviously the episode finishes. It's one of those episodes where I think you could take the episode away from the show and it wouldn't change much. If you just kept the Ellie and Joel scenes at the beginning of the next episode and just had them find a car, it wouldn't have affected much. But this is a nice story in an apocalyptic world that shows that what friendship, what companionship would mean so much more in that sort of situation. And I did think it was a good episode. I really did. I sort of got into it. I enjoyed it. And yeah, it was a good bit. I preferred the first two episodes just because I like the more horror element. But this one was a very good episode. This is the one that might get your girlfriend into it, if you know what I mean. If you're the horror fan and you're trying to watch this show and you're trying to convince your partner to watch you who's not much of a horror fan, this is the episode that they might switch into it and enjoy. I remember when I was getting my my girlfriend Laura to start watching The Walking Dead, It was the episodes where Daryl started looking for Carol's daughter. That's what got her into the show. It's that whole like where Daryl was doing everything he could to find that girl, would go hunting for every day trying to find her, and that's what got my girlfriend invested into the show. Like second season, and then she became a massive fan and had to watch every episode, which is good because I got to watch it again. And this is what's happened with this one. I think this is the episode where she, like most of our sort of like more sympathetic partners that aren't into the gory horror stuff. This is the episode that will draw them in to like how much heart there is. And I've already heard on the internet people saying it's one of the greatest episodes of all time on TV. I don't think it's that amazing, but I can understand where it comes from. So it's, if we look at it in sort of like what it's about, the sort of like the relationship between two men, and they've shown that in there in such a, it's not an overly like, oh, I don't know how to say this without saying anything. Like sometimes they can go over the top with the fact that it's two men, like they like really make an issue of it. But it was just two people that fell in love. They didn't go overboard with it being like, oh my god, like just keep saying like, it was just two people falling in love. They didn't go like push the whole sort of like protest side of it or anything like that. It was just two people met each other, had a connection, fell in love, and it didn't matter if it was a man or woman, it didn't matter if it was two men, it wouldn't matter if it was two women. It was just that connection made, and it didn't need to be any more than that. And sometimes I think that is so much better when you don't push it like in the face. Like if you hammered home and they kept saying over and over again, this is a gay relationship, and they kept really pushing for the fact, and like had rainbow flags in the background or something like that, it wouldn't have worked. This worked so because it was done so. It didn't matter who it was. It was just showing this relationship. It's like I remember years ago they did an episode of EastEnders, and everyone in it, it was like to do with I can't even remember what the reason was. It was saying, but basically every character they used in this one episode of EastEnders, every single person was black in one episode. It was done to sort of almost prove a point or something. But they didn't say that before the episode. They didn't say before the episode airs, oh my god, everyone's going to be black in this episode. You need to watch this. It's all about black people. What they did was they just had it happen. It just came on the show. And not many people noticed. And to me, that's a good thing. The fact that not many people noticed. Obviously, some people did notice, and that's why the story came out. Oh my god, did you notice that they only had black people in the show? Happened afterwards. But when I watched it, I didn't notice that's what they'd done. I just watched the show as I watched EastEnders all the time. I always watched EastEnders ever since I was a kid because it was always on my house. It was just one of those things, like a main staple of the TV in my house. And I still watch it now. But I didn't notice it was all black, just only the black actors in this one particular episode of EastEnders. So, and I remember there was a big thing afterwards, like, if you noticed it, that means you're a racist. No, it doesn't mean you're a racist if you noticed it. It just means you just noticed it. Whereas I honestly didn't notice it. I just kept watching it. The show was just the show. That show's done it before. They've done something a little bit different to like the whole episode was just only two characters at one point. But anyway, yeah. So where are we going back onto the subject? So yeah. So I can understand there's going to be some people that will be angry at this show. There's going to be some people that'll be like, oh, why would we put this? They're trying to shove the thing in it. And there's always a little bit. I mean, I know we all know that now in movie things they try and include certain things nowadays. Like they feel like they have to include things, or they get branded as like racist or prejudiced or something. So they will purposely include things. And Marvel are kind of the one that sort of originally was sort of like, well, how comes all your superheroes are white? How comes they're all like characters? So they know like, okay, we're going to do Black Panther to try and push it. And then they kind of, I think they did the wrong thing with the Eternals movie where they tried to include everyone, or almost say like, well, here we go, here's one with everything in it. And I think it was too much, that film. And I think that's why that film, they concentrated too much on that and less on script and story, and it kind of messed up that Marvel film. But this was the perfect amount of doing something to say, look, it is kind of inclusive, but we're not going to slam it in your face. You're just going to see that this is two people falling in love. And to me, this is probably one of the best representations of a gay couple there could be, because it is just so innocent and so caring and so about emotion that it's not about like shoving the fact it's a gay couple in your face, because it didn't need to do that at all. It was just so perfectly done. So whether you're straight, gay, or anything, you would appreciate the storyline. The amount of comments I've seen about this episode online of people saying like, that they thought was the greatest episode. And this isn't just coming from the gay community or the sort of LGBT community or anything like that. So I've got the initials wrong. I'm not very good with this. It's not coming from anywhere like that. It's just coming from every fan is saying it was a great episode, and that to me shows the world is changing a little bit more every day. When you can get something like this that doesn't that people from all different backgrounds are saying that was a great episode, and they're not pushing the sort of arguing about like what was in it. Fantastic. So there's hope in the future for everyone to be more happy. And it was good. It was fun. It was a good episode. There were some comedy moments in it, and I liked it. Now we're obviously going to move on now to the next episode, which is episode 4, and this is where it's going to start getting mental. Because already they've shown us the little trailer they do at the end of every episode now. They show like a little trailer of next week. And I know what's coming. And what's coming is very good. And we are going to start to... Because I'm waiting for Crazy Killer Joel. Because Crazy Killer Joel is insane. Because when you play that game, you are... And I know that, like, in the game, a group of people refer to Joel as the Wild Man. Because... when he goes on a killing spree, he goes on a killing spree. And I think we're going to start to see this now, because what's coming in the game, I died many times playing this game. At this point, I remember like getting frustrated, because this is where the game starts really heating up. And this is where this story is going to start getting the peril and the danger and the oncoming doom. And it's basically, again, I don't want to compare it too much to Walking Dead, because it is a very similar, so the idea to Walking Dead, where yes, you've got these infected fungus guys. Yes, you've got that, but that's not the bad. The bad is other people. And The Walking Dead did that so well with the idea of like, yes, we've got the zombies, but the zombies aren't the real bad. It's other people, and how other people change, and how people will do things, that not so nice things, to keep themselves alive. And this is where we're going to I think we're going to find out a bit more about Joel's past now. And I think we're going to see sort of like Ellie sort of looking at Joel in a different way of like, what were you? How bad were you? And we're going to get to see some like serious action in the next one. Because obviously this one, third one, it was very slow paced, not so much action. It was all about the connection of people and showing there's a connection in this world. And the next one, this is going to be action the entire episode. I already know this was going to happen. It's going to be action-packed mega episode of boom, boom, boom. Everyone's shooting and killing and blood and guts and all kinds of stuff. And I know we've got what? I mean, we've got another 6 episodes to go. I can kind of see how they're going to pace it. In my head, I can see where they're pacing it. And there is a certain part of this story which I don't know how they're going to do it, because in the game it was uncomfortable to play and be a part of that experience. And this TV show is making us care more about the characters than because when you play a game, you're just playing around shooting, killing people. This TV show is making me care so much about character and these people that I'm going to care what happens more to them in the episodes to come. And there is one part in the episodes to come, if you played the game, you'll probably already know what I'm talking about, with a certain group of people, and I've no clue how they're going to pull that off. And when they do pull it off, I'm excited for what happens to get people out of that situation, but I'm also excited to see, not really excited, but I'm kind of apprehensive to see how uncomfortable that's going to make me feel when it happens. So anyway, I've talked far too long about this and ranted on so too much. But yeah, great episode again. This show is not failing, and they've officially announced. I mean, we knew it was coming anyway. They've officially said season 2, greenlit, is going. And why wouldn't they? Because the amount of money this thing is making is going to be incredible. The fact that I went and bought a whole new streaming service just to watch this show shows you what this show is doing. And other people have done it as well. People like join all their subscriptions to Now TV and HBO in America just to watch this show, because the thing it's getting, I think it was like 66 million people or something watched it or something this one. It's like the most watched show at the minute, I think, and this is just probably the least watched streaming service. Obviously Netflix is the big one that everyone most people have got, Amazon, a lot of people have got, mainly because most people like the Amazon free delivery, so they kind of got it with, which is what I did as well. I wouldn't have Amazon if it wasn't for that free delivery service. But, and obviously you got your iPlayers and your stuff like that, and a lot of people have Sky. But Now TV is not a big one, but I know a lot of people are now getting Now TV to watch this. So they've done really well, and this is going to be big. And I don't know, because I know that I heard when they first brought it out, they were going to stick to the game and just keep the linear of the game. They're not going to do their own thing. It's literally going to be game for game. And there's a third game on the way. That doesn't give us a lot of, because it takes a long time to make a game, so it doesn't give us a lot of time for this. So I'm not sure how they're going to keep going. And also, there's things that will happen in the next game where there's time jumps. I don't know how they're going to do that with the actors. But they did it on The Walking Dead as well, so. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you have any opinions on it, obviously, you want to ask me any questions or whatever, let me know and put some little messages in there. I don't mind talking to you. And again, I'll see you next week for the episode 4 one. Have a good night, and see you guys soon. Bye.